The rain came down hard that Tuesday afternoon, turning the school parking lot into a mess of puddles and mud. David Martinez stood by the main entrance, watching parents rush in and out with their umbrellas, grabbing their kids and running back to their cars. He pulled his thin jacket tighter around himself. The zipper had broken last month, and he hadn't had the money to replace it yet. Teaching 5th grade at Lincoln Elementary didn't pay much. After rent, his father's nursing home bills, and the minimum payments on his student loans, David usually had about $40 left for the week. Sometimes less. Today was a less day. He had $12.30 in his wallet, and it was only Tuesday. Most of the other teachers had already left. The parking lot was almost empty now. David was about to head back inside when he heard it. A small, quiet sound that made him stop. Crying. Not the loud, dramatic kind. The soft, trying to hide it kind that somehow felt worse. He turned and saw her sitting on the bench near the flagpole. A little girl from the 3rd grade, curled up with her backpack clutched to her chest. Her dark hair was getting wet from the rain, and her pink jacket looked too thin for the weather. David walked over, his old sneakers splashing through the puddles. "Hey there," he said gently, crouching down to her level. "You okay?" The girl looked up. Her eyes were red and puffy. She wiped her nose with her sleeve and shook her head. "I'm Mr. Martinez. I teach the 5th graders. What's your name?" "Lily," she whispered, so quiet he almost didn't hear her over the rain. "Nice to meet you, Lily. Are you waiting for someone?" She nodded. "My daddy. But he's not here yet." David glanced at his watch. It was almost 4:30. School had ended at 3. Has this happened before? Lily's bottom lip trembled. Sometimes he forgets. He's always working. David felt something twist in his chest. He knew that feeling. When he was Lily's age after his mom died, his own father had buried himself in work, anything to avoid the empty house and the memories. "Well, how about we wait together?" David said, opening his umbrella. It was old and had a broken spoke, but it still worked mostly. He held it over Lily even though it meant his left shoulder got soaked. "You'll get sick if you stay out here in the rain by yourself." Lily scooted over on the bench, making room for him. They sat in silence for a moment, listening to the rain drum against the umbrella. "Are you hungry?" David asked. She nodded slowly. David reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out an apple. It was his dinner. He'd planned to eat it during his shift at the bookstore later that night. But looking at this little girl with her tear-stained face, he didn't even hesitate. "Here," he said, offering it to her. "I brought an extra one today." It was a lie, but a small one. The kind that didn't hurt anyone. Lily took the apple with both hands. "Thank you," she said, her voice a little stronger now. "You're welcome. So 3rd grade, huh? How do you like your teacher?" "Mrs. Patterson is nice," Lily said between bites. "But I don't really talk to the other kids much." "No? Why not?" She shrugged. "They don't really like me. They say I'm weird because I'm quiet." David smiled sadly. "Being quiet doesn't make you weird. Some of the smartest, most interesting people I know are quiet. They just like to think more and talk less. Nothing wrong with that." Lily looked at him like she wasn't sure whether to believe him. "I was a quiet kid too," David continued. "Still am, actually. I'd rather read a book than go to a loud party any day." "Really?" For the first time, he saw a tiny smile on her face. "Really? What do you like to do? When you're not at school?" "I like to draw," Lily said. "Pictures of flowers and birds and my mom." The way she said mom made David's heart sink. Past tense. He recognized that tone. "Your mom must be really special if you draw pictures of her." Lily's eyes filled with tears again. "She died 2 years ago. She was sick for a long time, and then she went to heaven." David had to swallow hard. He knew what to say because he'd lived it. "I bet she was beautiful." "She was," Lily whispered. "She had long hair like mine, and she always smelled like vanilla because she loved to bake cookies. Chocolate chip were her favorite. Those are the best kind," David said. "My mom used to make them too. She'd let me lick the spoon when we mixed the batter." "Your mom died too?" David nodded. "When I was 7, about your age." They sat together in a different kind of silence now. The kind where you don't need to explain because someone already understands. "Does it stop hurting?" Lily asked after a while. David thought about lying, about giving her some easy answer that would make her feel better for a minute. But he'd hated when adults did that to him. Kids deserved honesty even when it was hard. "No," he said, "but it changes." It gets different. Some days are harder than others, but you learn to carry it, and you remember all the good stuff. The cookies, the way she laughed, the stories she told you before bed, those things stay with you forever. Lily leaned against his arm, still holding the half-eaten apple. Daddy doesn't talk about her anymore? I think it makes him too sad. Yeah, David said. Grown-ups sometimes think that if they don't talk about sad things, they won't feel sad. But it doesn't really work that way. I wish he would remember, Lily said. Remember how we used to be before. David knew that word too. Before was its own country, a place you couldn't go back to no matter how much you wanted to. The rain started to ease up a little. The parking lot was completely empty now except for David's beat-up Honda at the far end. The school looked dark and lonely behind them. You know what I do when I miss my mom? David said. I tell stories about her. Out loud, even if I'm alone. I'll just sit in my apartment and say, remember when Mom did this, or Mom always said that. It makes her feel closer somehow. Does it work? Sometimes. It's worth trying. Lily finished the apple and carefully put the core in her backpack. David almost asked her why, but then he understood. She was probably used to being careful about trash, used to following rules even when no one was watching. Mr. Martinez, she said, yeah? How come you're being so nice to me? The question caught him off guard. How do you explain to an 8-year-old that kindness shouldn't need a reason? That sometimes you help people simply because they need help? Because you needed someone to sit with you, David said. And because I remember what it feels like to be scared and alone. And because, he paused, searching for the right words, because that's what we're supposed to do. Take care of each other. Lily nodded like this made perfect sense to her. They waited another 15 minutes. David told her stories about the funny things his 5th graders did, carefully leaving out any names. He told her about the time a student brought a frog to class and it escaped, causing chaos for an hour. He told her about the school play last year when the curtain fell down in the middle of the performance, and the kids just kept acting anyway. She laughed. Actually laughed. It was a small sound, but it was there. Finally, headlights appeared at the entrance of the parking lot. A sleek black car pulled up, moving fast and then stopping abruptly. The driver's side door opened and a man in an expensive suit jumped out. He looked frantic, his tie loose and his hair messy like he'd been running his hands through it. Lily, he called out, rushing toward them. Lily stood up, grabbing her backpack. Daddy! The man scooped her up in his arms, holding her tight. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I'm so sorry. The meeting ran late and my phone died and... He stopped, noticing David for the first time. David stood up, closing his umbrella. Up close, he could see the man's face more clearly. Sharp features, expensive watch, the kind of shoes that probably cost more than David's monthly rent. But his eyes were red, tired, worried. You kept her safe, the man said, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you. I thank you. No problem, David said. She's a great kid. The man looked at Lily, then back at David. I don't know what to say. How can I repay you? You don't need to repay me. Just get her home safe and warm. Maybe some hot chocolate. It's cold out, the man nodded, still holding Lily. What's your name? David Martinez. I teach here, Mr. Rodriguez, the man said. Rafael Rodriguez. He shifted Lily in his arms and pulled out his wallet with one hand. Please, at least let me... I don't need anything, David said quickly, taking a step back. The last thing he wanted was money. That would make this transaction instead of what it was. One human helping another. Rafael looked at him for a long moment, like he was trying to figure David out. Like kindness without expectation was a puzzle he couldn't solve. Daddy, Lily said. Mr. Martinez stayed with me the whole time. He shared his dinner with me and told me stories. He's really nice. Rafael's expression changed, softened. Thank you, he said again, and this time it sounded different, more real. You're welcome. Lily, you take care, okay? And remember what we talked about, she nodded. About the stories. About the stories, David repeated with a smile. He watched them walk to the car. Rafael buckled Lily into the back seat, leaning in to kiss her forehead. Then he looked back at David once more, raised his hand in a wave, and got in the driver's seat. The black car pulled away, its taillights disappearing into the rainy evening. David stood there for a minute, letting the rain soak into his jacket. His stomach growled, reminding him that he'd just given away his dinner. He checked his watch. If he hurried, he could still make it to his shift at the bookstore on time. Maybe Angie would have leftover sandwiches from the cafe next door. She usually did on Tuesdays. He walked across the parking lot to his car. The Honda was 16 years old and made weird noises when he started it. But it still ran. That's what mattered. As he drove toward downtown, David thought about Lily, about her sad eyes and her quiet voice and the way she'd said her mother's name. He hoped her father would be there for her tonight. Really there, not just physically present, but actually paying attention. He knew what happened when fathers checked out, when grief became a wall instead of a bridge. He'd lived through it. His own father had disappeared into work after Mom died, leaving David to raise himself. They were better now, but those years had been hard, lonely. David didn't want that for Lily. But what could he do? He was just a teacher, a broke one at that. He'd probably never see her father again. Rafael Rodriguez looked like the kind of man who lived in a different world. Expensive cars, designer suits, private schools probably. Still, David couldn't shake the feeling that tonight mattered somehow. That this small moment in the rain would ripple out into something bigger. He just didn't know how big. 3 weeks passed after that rainy afternoon. David didn't think much about Lily or her father anymore. Life moved on the way it always did. Bills came in. Students needed attention. His father called from the nursing home asking when he'd visit next. It was a Thursday morning when David noticed something different. He was walking down the hallway during his planning period, carrying a stack of graded math tests, when he saw Lily. She was sitting alone on the floor outside the library, her back against the wall staring at nothing. David slowed down. Something about the way she sat there, so small and still, made his chest tighten. "Hey, Lily," he said, stopping in front of her. "Shouldn't you be in class?" She looked up and he saw it immediately. Her eyes were red again. Not crying right now red, but the kind of red that meant she'd been crying earlier and was trying hard not to start again. "Mrs. Patterson said I could have a minute," she said quietly. "I told her my stomach hurt." David knew that trick. He'd used it himself as a kid. When the world felt too big and too loud, you told the teacher your stomach hurt. It was easier than explaining that your heart hurt. He set down his stack of papers and sat on the floor next to her, right there in the hallway. His knees cracked a little. 28 wasn't old, but teaching had a way of making your body feel older than it was. "Want to talk about it?" he asked. Lily shook her head. Then after a moment, she started talking anyway. That's how it worked sometimes. People said no, but what they really meant was they were scared to say yes. "I got an A on my reading test," she said. "That's great. Why does that make you sad?" "Because I wanted to tell my mom. I always wanted to tell her things like that. And Daddy, he came home late again last night. He didn't even ask about my day. He just said he was tired and went to his office." David nodded slowly. "That must feel pretty lonely." "It does." Lily picked at the hem of her skirt. "Sometimes I feel like I'm invisible, like I could disappear and nobody would notice for a really long time." Those words hit David harder than he expected. He remembered feeling exactly that way after his mom died. Like he was a ghost in his own house, moving through rooms that his father barely looked at. "I would notice," David said, "and I bet there are other people who would too. Your teacher, your classmates." "The kids in my class don't really talk to me," Lily said. "They think I'm weird because I like to draw during recess instead of playing kickball." "Nothing weird about that. You know what I did during recess when I was your age? I read books, sat under a tree and read. The other kids thought that was strange too." Lily looked at him with those big, serious eyes. "Did you have friends?" "A few, not many. But the ones I had were good ones. Quality over quantity, you know?" She nodded like she understood, even though David wasn't sure an 8-year-old could fully grasp what he meant. "Mr. Martinez," she said after a moment. "Yeah? Can I eat lunch in your classroom sometimes? I don't like the cafeteria. It's too loud." David thought about it. Technically, he was supposed to use his lunch period for grading and planning. But looking at this kid, this lonely little girl who just wanted a quiet place to exist, he couldn't say no. "Sure," he said. "You can come hang out. But you have to actually eat your lunch. Deal?" A small smile appeared on her face. The first real smile he'd seen from her since that day in the rain. "Deal," and that's how it started. The next day, Lily showed up at his classroom door right when lunch period began. She had a lunchbox with a sandwich and some carrot sticks. David had his usual, peanut butter crackers from the vending machine and a bottle of water. She sat at one of the desks and pulled out a notebook. Not a school notebook. This one had a purple cover with stars on it. She opened it carefully like it was precious, and David saw pages filled with drawings. "Can I see?" he asked. Lily hesitated, then nodded. She brought the notebook over to his desk. The drawings were good. Really good. There were flowers with detailed petals, birds sitting on branches, a house with a garden, and then on one page a woman with long dark hair and a gentle smile. "Is this your mom?" David asked softly. "Yeah. I draw her so I don't forget what she looked like." David felt that familiar ache in his chest. "She's beautiful. You're really talented, Lily. You think so?" "I know so." "These are incredible." They sat together in comfortable silence while they ate. Well, Lily ate. David mostly just nibbled on his crackers. He was saving his appetite for dinner at his dad's place that night. The nursing home let families bring food in, and he'd scraped together enough money to get burgers from the cheap place down the street. "Mr. Martinez?" Lily said, finishing her last carrot stick. "Do you think people can be sad for too long?" It was such a heavy question for such a small person. "What do you mean?" David asked. "Like, is there a time when you're supposed to stop being sad? When it's been long enough?" David put down his crackers. "No, there's no time limit on grief. Everybody handles it differently. Some people cry a lot at first and then feel better. Some people keep it inside for years. Neither way is wrong." "I think my daddy keeps it inside," Lily said. "He never talks about Mommy. It's like he pretends she never existed. But she did exist. She was real and she was here and she loved us." Her voice cracked on the last word. "Have you told your dad how you feel?" David asked. Lily shook her head. "He's always busy. And when he's home, he looks so tired. I don't want to make him more sad." David understood that impulse. Kids took care of their parents in ways parents never realized. They swallowed their own pain to protect the adults around them. "Your dad needs to know," David said gently. "I'm not saying it'll be easy. But keeping it all inside isn't good for you. And I bet your dad doesn't even realize how you're feeling." "Maybe," Lily said, but she didn't sound convinced. They finished lunch, and Lily went back to class. But the next day she came back. And the day after that, it became their routine. Lily would show up with her lunch and her purple notebook. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they just sat quietly while she drew and he graded papers. David started to notice other things too. Lily's homework was often incomplete. Not because she couldn't do it, but because she'd start crying halfway through and give up. Her handwriting got messier as the pages went on, like her hands were shaking. During the third week of their lunch meetings, David made a decision. After school, he went to the library and checked out books about grief and loss. Not the academic kind. The ones written for kids. Stories about children dealing with death, about families learning to heal. The next day, he brought one to lunch. "I thought you might like this," he said, sliding it across the desk to Lily. She looked at the cover. It showed a little girl holding a star. "What's it about?" "It's about a girl whose grandmother dies, and how she learns that it's okay to be sad, but it's also okay to be happy again, that you can miss someone and still enjoy life." Lily opened the book carefully, running her fingers over the first page. "Can I borrow it?" "Of course. Take your time with it." She put it in her backpack like it was made of glass. That weekend, David worked his usual Saturday shift at the bookstore. It was slow, which was normal. Most people bought books online now. But David liked the quiet of the store, the smell of paper and coffee from the cafe next door. He was restocking the children's section when he heard the bell above the door chime. He looked up and froze. Rafael Rodriguez stood in the doorway, looking around like he'd never been in a bookstore before. He wore jeans and a casual shirt, but they still looked expensive. Designer, probably. He spotted David and walked over. "Mr. Martinez," Rafael said. "I was hoping I'd find you here." David stood up confused. "Mr. Rodriguez, how did you—" "I called the school. Asked if you worked anywhere else. The secretary told me." Rafael looked uncomfortable, like he wasn't used to feeling uncertain. "I hope that's not weird. I just wanted to talk to you." "About Lily?" David asked, immediately worried. "Is she okay?" "She's fine. Physically, anyway." Rafael ran a hand through his hair. "That's actually what I wanted to talk about. She's been different lately. In a good way. She's been talking more. Smiling more. And she told me she eats lunch in your classroom. Yeah, David said. She asked if she could. I hope that's okay. I should have probably asked permission first. No, it's fine. More than fine. Raphael looked around the empty bookstore, then back at David. Can we talk? Maybe sit down somewhere. David led him to the small seating area near the front window. Two worn armchairs that had seen better days. They sat down, and for a moment neither of them spoke. Lily's been struggling, Raphael finally said. I knew that. I just didn't know how to help her. After my wife died, I threw myself into work. It was easier than dealing with the grief. Easier than coming home to an empty house. But I didn't realize I was leaving Lily empty too. David stayed quiet, letting Raphael talk. She came to me last week, Raphael continued. Told me she was sad, that she missed her mother and missed me. She said you told her she should talk to me about how she feels. His eyes were getting red. She's 8 years old and she's taking care of herself emotionally because I've been too much of a coward to do it. You're not a coward, David said. You're grieving. There's a difference, is there? Raphael looked at him. Because from where I'm sitting, I failed my daughter. And a teacher making probably 1/10 of what I make has been doing my job for me. David shifted uncomfortably. I'm not doing your job. I'm just being a friend to a kid who needs one. That's all. That's not all, though, is it? Raphael leaned forward. The secretary also told me you stay late after school most days. That you tutor kids for free. That you bring snacks for students who don't have lunch money. You're not just being a friend. You're being everything these kids need. David didn't know what to say to that. He'd never thought of it as anything special. It was just what you did when you saw someone hurting. I looked you up, Raphael said quietly. I hope that's not invasive, but I needed to understand who was spending time with my daughter. I found out about your father. The nursing home. The bills, David's jaw tightened. That's private, I know. I'm sorry, but I needed to say this. You gave my daughter your dinner that night. You stayed with her in the rain when you probably had somewhere else to be, and now you're spending your lunch periods with her when you could be resting, all while dealing with your own struggles. Raphael's voice cracked. Why? Why do you do it? David thought about the question. Really thought about it. Because someone did it for me once, he finally said. When my mom died, there was a teacher, Mr. Peterson. He let me sit in his classroom during lunch. He never made me talk, never pushed me. He just gave me a safe place to exist, and that made all the difference. David looked at Raphael. I do it because I remember what it feels like to be alone. And because I can. It's that simple. Raphael wiped his eyes. I want to do better. For Lily. I've already cut back my hours at work. Started coming home for dinner every night. But I don't know how to talk to her about her mother. Every time I try, I just break down. Then break down in front of her, David said. Let her see that you're hurting too. She thinks you've forgotten her mother. She thinks you don't care. But you do care. You care so much it's eating you alive. Show her that. Raphael nodded slowly. You're right. I know you're right. They sat there for a while longer. Two men from completely different worlds, connected by one little girl who just needed someone to see her. Thank you, Raphael said when he finally stood up, for everything you've done for Lily, and for being honest with me today. You're welcome, David said. And Mr. Rodriguez, you're doing better already, just by being here, just by trying. Raphael managed a small smile. Call me Raphael. I think we're past formalities. After Raphael left, David sat in the armchair for a long time, watching people walk by outside the window. He thought about Lily and her purple notebook, about Raphael and his expensive clothes and broken heart, about how grief didn't care how much money you had or what kind of car you drove. Everyone hurt the same. Everyone needed help sometimes. And sometimes the smallest acts of kindness were the ones that mattered most. Monday came and Lily showed up for lunch as usual. But this time she was smiling when she walked through the door. Guess what? She said, practically bouncing. What? David asked, smiling at her excitement. Daddy and I talked all weekend. Really talked. About Mom and about everything. We even looked at photo albums together. He cried, but he said that was okay. That it meant he still loves her. Lily's eyes were bright, and we're going to start having dinner together every night. No phones, no work. Just us. David felt warmth spread through his chest. That's wonderful, Lily. I'm really happy for you. It's because of you, she said seriously. You helped me be brave enough to talk to him. No, David said. You did that yourself. I just reminded you that your voice matters. She hugged her notebook to her chest. Can I still eat lunch here sometimes? Even though things are better at home? Of course, David said. Anytime you want. My classroom door is always open, and it was. Not just for Lily, but for any kid who needed a quiet place, a listening ear, or just someone who cared. 2 months went by, and things seemed to be getting better. Lily smiled more in the hallways. She even made a friend in her class, a quiet boy named Kevin, who also liked to draw. David watched from a distance, proud of how far she'd come. But life has a way of reminding you that progress isn't always a straight line. It was a Friday afternoon, and David was in his classroom grading spelling tests when his phone rang. He almost didn't answer it because he didn't recognize the number, but something made him pick up. Mr. Martinez? It was Raphael. His voice sounded strained, urgent. Raphael? What's wrong? It's my father. He had a stroke. I'm at the hospital and I don't know when I'll be able to leave. Lily's at school and I can't get there to pick her up. My assistant is in a meeting across town and won't make it in time. I know this is asking a lot, but is there any way you could— I'll stay with her, David said immediately. Don't worry about it. You focus on your father. Thank you. God, thank you. I'll send a car for her as soon as I can. Take your time. She'll be safe with me. David hung up and sat back in his chair. Raphael's father. He didn't even know the man, but he understood what Raphael must be feeling right now. That terror when you get the call. That helplessness. When school ended, David found Lily waiting by the front entrance. She looked worried. Hey, David said gently. Your dad called. He's at the hospital with your grandfather. He asked if I could hang out with you until he can send someone to get you. Lily's face went pale. Grandpa, is he okay? I don't know all the details, but your dad is with him. He's getting the best care. Her eyes filled with tears. I don't want Grandpa to die too. David's heart broke. Of course that's where her mind went. When you've lost someone you love, every hospital visit feels like a countdown to losing someone else. Come on, he said. Let's go somewhere more comfortable than the school lobby. He drove her to the bookstore. It was quiet on Friday afternoons, and his manager didn't mind if he brought Lily along. They sat in the children's section, surrounded by colorful books and stuffed animals that the store used for decoration. Lily pulled her knees up to her chest. Mom died in a hospital, she said quietly. We went to visit her every day, and then one day the doctor said she wasn't going to get better. And she didn't. David sat next to her on the floor, his back against the bookshelf. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Is that what's going to happen to Grandpa? I don't know, Lily, I hope not. But whatever happens, your dad is there with him. And you're not alone. She wiped her eyes. Grandpa is really nice. After Mom died, he came to stay with us for a while. He made me pancakes in the morning and helped me with my homework. He told me stories about when my dad was little. He sounds like a good man. He is. Daddy and him got in a fight, though. A few months ago, I heard them yelling. Grandpa said Daddy was working too much and forgetting about me. Daddy got really mad and told him to mind his own business. Grandpa left and didn't come back. David felt anger flash through him, not at Raphael exactly, but at the situation, at how grief made people do stupid things, say things they didn't mean, push away the people trying to help. People say things they regret when they're hurt, David said. I bet your dad wishes he could take that fight back. Me too, Lily whispered. They sat there for a while. David let her be quiet, didn't push her to talk. Sometimes the best thing you could do for someone was just exist next to them. Let them know they weren't alone in their worry. After about an hour, Lily's stomach growled. David checked his wallet. He had $8, enough for a slice of pizza from the place next door. Hungry? He asked. She nodded. They walked to the pizza shop and David bought one slice that they split between them. He wasn't very hungry anyway. His stomach was doing that anxious thing it did when he was worried about someone. When they got back to the bookstore, Lily pulled out her purple notebook and started drawing. David watched as she sketched a hospital room. A bed with someone in it, another person sitting beside the bed holding their hand. That's beautiful, David said. It's for Grandpa. So when he wakes up, he knows I was thinking about him. When he wakes up, David repeated. Not if, when. He liked that she still had hope. It was almost 7 when Raphael finally called back. I'm sending a car, he said. He sounded exhausted. It should be there in 10 minutes. "How's your father?" David asked. "Stable. They got to him fast enough. The doctors say he'll need physical therapy, but he should recover." Raphael's voice cracked. "David, I said terrible things to him the last time we spoke. What if I'd lost him before I could apologize? But you didn't. He's still here. You'll have time to make it right. Because he got lucky. Because the stroke didn't kill him, but it could have." Raphael took a shaky breath. "I'm starting to realize I've spent the last 2 years running from everyone who loves me. Pushing them away because I couldn't handle my own pain. My daughter, my father, everyone. You're realizing it now. That's what matters. Is Lily okay?" David looked over at Lily, who was adding color to her drawing with the markers he kept at the store for kids. "She's worried, but she's strong. She drew a picture for your dad." "Of course she did." Raphael made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. "She's better than I deserve. She's exactly what you deserve. A good kid who loves her father. Don't sell yourself short." The car arrived, a black sedan with a professional driver. David walked Lily out and made sure she got in safely. She clutched her notebook to her chest and waved at him through the window as the car pulled away. David went back inside and finished his shift, but his mind was somewhere else. He kept thinking about Raphael at the hospital, about how close people could come to losing each other, about all the words left unsaid. That night, lying in his small apartment, David called his own father at the nursing home. The nurses put him on the line. "Hey, Dad," David said. "David? It's late. Everything okay?" "Yeah, I just wanted to call. See how you're doing." His father was quiet for a moment. They weren't the type to call just to chat. Their relationship was still healing from those years after Mom died. Years when his dad had been physically present but emotionally gone. "I'm okay," his father said. "Therapy's going well. My hip doesn't hurt as much. That's good." Another pause. "Dad, I know I don't say it much, but I love you." He heard his father's breath catch. "I love you too, son. Where's this coming from?" "Just had a reminder today that we don't always get as much time as we think we do." His father was quiet again, but it was a different kind of quiet, the kind full of understanding. "You're a good man, David. Your mother would be proud of you." After they hung up, David felt lighter somehow, like he'd set down something heavy he didn't know he was carrying. The weekend passed. Monday morning, David was setting up his classroom when he heard a knock on the door. Raphael stood there, looking tired but somehow more alive than David had ever seen him. "Hey," Raphael said. "Got a minute?" "Of course. How's your father?" "Better. Complaining about the hospital food, which the doctors say is a good sign." Raphael stepped into the classroom, looking around at the colorful posters and student work on the walls. "He wants to meet you," David blinked. "Me? Why?" "Because Lily told him all about you, about how you stayed with her on Friday, about the lunches and the books and everything you've done, and because I told him about you too, about how you helped me see what I was doing to my daughter, what I was doing to myself." "I didn't really do anything," David said. "You keep saying that." Raphael smiled, but it was sad. "You don't see it, do you? The impact you have. You're living on what, 40, 50,000 a year? Working 2 jobs just to keep your head above water. And you still find time to care about other people's kids, to give them what they need even when you barely have enough yourself." David felt uncomfortable. "That's just called being decent." "No," Raphael said firmly. "That's called being exceptional. And it's rare." He pulled out an envelope from his jacket pocket. "Which is why I want to help." David eyed the envelope. "Raphael, if that's money—" "It's not. Not exactly." Raphael set it on the desk. "It's information about a program my company runs. We give grants to teachers who go above and beyond. Full coverage of student loans plus a stipend for classroom supplies and personal expenses. I want to nominate you." David stared at the envelope like it might bite him. "I can't accept that." "Why not?" "Because it feels like charity. And because I didn't help Lily to get something out of it." "I know that," Raphael said. "That's exactly why you deserve it. You're not doing this for recognition or reward. You're doing it because you care." "But David, you can't pour from an empty cup." "How are you supposed to help kids when you're drowning in debt? When you're working 2 jobs and eating crackers for lunch?" David wanted to argue, but he couldn't. Because Raphael was right. He was exhausted, constantly stressed about money. Some months he had to choose between buying groceries and paying the electric bill. "Think about it," Raphael said. "No strings attached. You can say no, but just think about what you could do with that burden lifted. How many more kids you could help. David picked up the envelope. It felt impossibly light for something that could change his life. "I'll think about it," he said. Raphael nodded. "That's all I ask." He turned to leave, then stopped. "My father wants to meet you, Lily too. We're having dinner at my house on Saturday. Nothing fancy. Just a chance to say thank you properly. Will you come?" David thought about saying no. Thought about keeping that professional distance. But looking at Raphael, seeing the genuine hope in his eyes, he couldn't do it. "Okay," David said. "I'll come." Saturday evening, David drove to the address Raphael had texted him. He almost turned around 3 times. His car felt out of place in this neighborhood, where every house looked like something from a magazine. Perfect lawns, 3-car garages, gates and security systems. Raphael's house was at the end of a cul-de-sac. It was big but not obnoxious about it. Modern but warm-looking. Lights glowed in the windows. David parked his Honda behind Raphael's car and walked to the front door. Before he could knock, it swung open. Lily stood there grinning. "Mr. Martinez, you came." "I said I would, didn't I?" She grabbed his hand and pulled him inside. The house smelled like garlic and tomatoes. Something Italian, maybe. David's stomach growled. Raphael appeared from what looked like the kitchen wearing an apron. "David, come in, come in. Hope you like pasta. It's about the only thing I know how to cook." "Pasta's great," David said, feeling awkward. He'd worn his nicest shirt, the blue one without any stains, but he still felt underdressed for this place. "Grandpa's in the living room," Lily said. "Come meet him." She led David to a large room with comfortable-looking furniture. An older man sat in a recliner, his left arm in a sling. He had Raphael's sharp features but softer eyes. "Kind eyes." "So you're the famous Mr. Martinez," the man said, his speech slightly slurred but clear enough. "I'm Vincent, Raphael's father and Lily's biggest fan." David shook his hand carefully. "Nice to meet you, sir. How are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a truck but alive. Can't complain too much." Vincent studied David with those kind eyes. "My granddaughter says you're a hero." "I'm really not," David said. "I'm just a teacher." "Just a teacher," Vincent repeated, chuckling. "You hear that, Raphael? Just a teacher. The man who saved your relationship with your daughter is just a teacher." Raphael appeared in the doorway. "Dad, don't embarrass him." "I'm not embarrassing him. I'm stating facts." Vincent looked back at David. "Sit down. Let an old man tell you something." David sat on the couch. Lily climbed up next to him. "After my daughter-in-law died," Vincent said, "Raphael here lost his way. Started working himself to death, ignoring this beautiful little girl. I tried to tell him, but he wouldn't listen. We fought about it. Said things we shouldn't have." He glanced at Raphael, his eyes soft. "Almost died without making that right." "Dad," Raphael said quietly, "let me finish." Vincent turned back to David. "You did what I couldn't. You reached him. Not through lectures or arguments, but through kindness. Through showing him what real strength looks like." He pointed at David with his good arm. "You work 2 jobs. You take care of your own father. You help kids who aren't even yours, and you do it without expecting anything in return. That's not just being a teacher. That's being the kind of person the world needs more of." David didn't know what to say. His throat felt tight. "Dinner's ready," Raphael announced, breaking the moment. "Everybody to the table." They ate pasta with homemade sauce that was surprisingly good. They talked and laughed. Lily told stories about school. Vincent teased Raphael about burning the garlic bread. It felt warm, normal, like family. And for the first time in a long time, David didn't feel alone. The weeks after that dinner felt different. David couldn't quite explain it, but something had shifted. He'd filled out the application for Raphael's grant program, though every time he thought about it, guilt twisted in his stomach. He kept telling himself he didn't deserve it, that there were other teachers who needed it more, but the bills kept coming. His car made a new rattling sound that probably meant expensive repairs. The nursing home called twice about his father's overdue balance. And David was tired, the kind of tired that sleep didn't fix. It was a Wednesday afternoon when everything came crashing down. David was in the middle of teaching a lesson about fractions when the school secretary knocked on his door. She looked worried. "Mr. Martinez, you have an urgent phone call. You can take it in the main office." David's heart dropped. Urgent calls were never good news. He told his students to work quietly on their worksheets and followed the secretary down the hall. The phone was already off the hook, waiting for him. He picked it up with shaking hands. "Hello, Mr. Martinez? This is Patricia from Meadowbrook Nursing Home." The woman's voice was kind but firm. "I'm calling about your father's account. We've tried to work with you on the payment plan, but we're now 3 months behind. I'm afraid if we don't receive payment by Friday, we'll have to start the discharge process." David gripped the phone tighter. "Discharge? What does that mean?" "It means we'll need to transfer him to a state facility. I'm sorry, but we can't continue providing care without payment." State facility. David knew what that meant. Overcrowded, understaffed. His father wouldn't get the therapy he needed. Wouldn't get the attention that was helping him heal. "How much?" David asked, though he already knew he didn't have it. "The total balance is $8,400, but if you can pay half by Friday, we can work out a new payment plan for the rest. $4,000. David had maybe $300 in his checking account. "I'll figure something out," he said, his voice hollow. "Thank you for calling." He hung up and stood there in the empty office, staring at the wall. $4,000 by Friday. It was Wednesday afternoon. He had less than 2 days. David went back to his classroom and finished teaching, but he was on autopilot. His mind was racing through options. He could ask for a loan from the bank, but his credit was already maxed out. He could pick up extra shifts at the bookstore, but that wouldn't get him $4,000 in 2 days. He could sell his car, but then how would he get to work? After school, he sat in his empty classroom with his head in his hands. He didn't hear the knock on the door at first. "Mr. Martinez?" He looked up. Lily stood in the doorway, her backpack slung over one shoulder. "Hey, Lily," David said, trying to smile. "What are you still doing here? Did your dad forget again?" "No, he's waiting outside. I just wanted to give you something." She walked over and set a piece of paper on his desk. "I made this for you. It was a drawing." David in his classroom, surrounded by students. At the top, in careful letters, she'd written, "The best teacher in the world." Something in David's chest cracked. He looked at this little girl who'd been through so much, who was finally healing, and he felt tears burn his eyes. "Thank you, Lily," he managed to say. "This is beautiful." She smiled, then tilted her head. "Are you okay? You look sad." David wanted to lie, wanted to say everything was fine. But looking at Lily, remembering all the times she'd been brave enough to be honest with him, he couldn't do it. "I'm having a tough day," he said, "but I'll be okay." "Is it about your dad?" she asked. "You told me he's in a nursing home." David nodded. "Yeah, but don't worry about it. You should go. Your dad's waiting." Lily studied him for a moment with those two wise eyes. Then she hugged him, quick and fierce, before running out of the classroom. David sat there holding her drawing, feeling like the worst kind of failure. Here he was, trying to help other people's kids while he couldn't even take care of his own father. That night, David drove to the nursing home after his bookstore shift. It was late, almost 10, but they let him in. His father was awake, reading a book by the light of the bedside lamp. "David, what are you doing here so late?" David sat in the chair next to the bed. His father looked good, actually, healthier than he had in months. The physical therapy was working. He was walking better, talking clearer, all because of this place and the care they provided, care that David couldn't afford. "Dad, I need to tell you something." His father set down his book. "What's wrong?" David explained everything. The bills, the phone call, the deadline. With every word, he watched his father's face grow more troubled. "Why didn't you tell me it was this bad?" his father asked. "Because I wanted to handle it. You're my dad. I'm supposed to take care of you. Not at the cost of drowning yourself." His father reached out and gripped David's hand. "Listen to me. I've lived a good life. If I need to go to a state facility—" "No," David said firmly. "You're getting better here. You need the therapy. The staff knows you. I'm not letting you go to some place where you'll be just another patient." "Then what are you going to do? You can't pull $4,000 out of thin air." David didn't have an answer. They sat in silence, both of them thinking about the impossible situation. Finally, his father spoke again. "That grant you mentioned, the one from your student's father. Did you apply?" "Yeah, but I won't hear back for weeks. Maybe months. The deadline is Friday." His father squeezed his hand. "Then you need to ask for help, real help. I know you hate doing it, but sometimes we can't do everything alone." David drove home that night feeling defeated. Ask for help from who? He'd already borrowed money from friends over the years and paid it back. He didn't have family besides his father, and he couldn't ask Raphael. That would be wrong, using his connection with Lily to beg for money. But Thursday morning, sitting in his classroom before school started, David got a text from Raphael. "Can you meet me at my office today after school? Something important." David stared at the message. His stomach churned with anxiety and something that felt dangerously like hope. He texted back, "I'll be there." The day dragged by. David taught his lessons, graded papers, ate lunch with Lily, who chattered happily about a book she was reading. He smiled and nodded, but inside he was counting down the hours. Finally, 3 o'clock came. David drove across town to the massive glass building that housed Rodriguez International. He'd looked it up once out of curiosity. Raphael's company designed software for hospitals and medical facilities. They employed thousands of people and were worth billions. The lobby alone was bigger than David's entire apartment building. Everything was marble and chrome and expensive looking. David felt completely out of place in his worn teacher clothes. He gave his name to the receptionist, who made a call and then directed him to the elevators. "Top floor, Mr. Rodriguez is expecting you." The elevator ride felt like it took forever. When the doors opened, David stepped into a sleek office space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. A young woman at a desk smiled at him. "Mr. Martinez? Right this way." She led him down a hallway to a large corner office. Raphael sat behind a massive desk, but when he saw David, he immediately stood and came around to greet him. "David, thanks for coming." Raphael gestured to a comfortable seating area away from the desk. "Please sit." David sat, his hands clasped together nervously. "What's this about?" Raphael sat across from him. "Lily came home yesterday very upset. She said you looked sad. That something was wrong." He paused. "She asked me if there was anything we could do to help." David's face burned with embarrassment. "Raphael, I didn't send her to ask you. I know that. But it got me thinking. I've been so focused on this grant application process, following all the official procedures, that I forgot something important." Raphael leaned forward. "You're not just some teacher who filed an application. You're the person who saved my relationship with my daughter, who stayed with her when my father was in the hospital, who gives and never asks for anything in return." "I still can't ask you for money," David said. "It's not right. You're not asking. I'm offering." Raphael pulled out his phone and showed David the screen. "This morning I approved your grant application. Full student loan coverage, $50,000 for classroom supplies and personal use, paid out immediately. The board will rubber stamp it next week, but I have the authority to advance the funds now." David stared at the numbers on the screen. $50,000. It was more money than he'd seen in his entire life. "I can't," he whispered. "This is too much." "It's not enough," Raphael said. "But it's a start." "David, yesterday my daughter came home and told me about a teacher who makes her feel safe, who makes school a place she wants to be. She showed me a whole notebook full of drawings she's done during lunch periods with you. She's healing, and a huge part of that is because of you." "I just ate lunch with her," David said weakly. "You did more than that. You saw her when everyone else looked past her. You gave her your time when time was the only thing you had to give. And now I'm asking you to let me give something back." David felt tears building. "My father," he said, his voice breaking. "They're going to discharge him. I have until Friday to pay $4,000 or they're sending him to a state facility." Raphael's expression didn't change. "Consider it paid." "What?" "I'll call Meadowbrook right now. They'll have the full balance by tomorrow morning. Your father can stay as long as he needs. No more payment plans. No more stress." David couldn't hold it back anymore. The tears came and he didn't try to stop them. All the pressure of the last few years, the constant worry and struggle and fear, came pouring out. Raphael moved to sit next to him, putting a hand on his shoulder. "It's okay. You don't have to carry it all alone anymore." They sat there for a while, David crying and Raphael just being present, not judging, not rushing him. Just there,